What's up everyone, Soldier First Class here. In today's mission, I want to talk about the news that next generation games are going to be a little bit more expensive, with the price point being $10 higher than our current generation. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of mixed feelings on this. I have my own opinions on it, and I do want to know what you guys think in the comments section below, so after the video, please let me know once we go over all the information. This stems from an article from Game Industry Biz, and the deal is that NBA 2K21 is going to be $59.99 as the standard for the PS4 and Xbox One versions of the game, and the next generation versions of those games are going to be $70. That being said, that's thrown a lot of people off. That's got people thinking, oh, you know, this is going to be way too expensive to play in the next generation. But unfortunately, I think we've been kind of spoiled for a long time, and we'll go into why in today's video. But I do want to look at this article real quick, so let's go ahead and move over. It says NBA 2K21 price is $10 more expensive on Xbox Series X and PS5. Now, it goes on to talk about how this may be the first hint that next generation games will be higher. It's not guaranteed, but it is something that I think has been a long time coming. And the PlayStation exec Sean Layden actually talked about this, I think last week or the week before, and talked about how games are becoming more expensive to make the more years go by, and making shorter games is more profitable for the companies. And I don't necessarily see this as a bad thing. I think some games tend to try to hit that 50 to 60 hour mark, and a lot of times we end up with fetch quest and padding and stuff like that, and I think that is more upsetting than getting in a 20-hour experience that has jam-packed full of content, stuff that we can do. And a lot of games, that is just the main story. A lot of games you can extend that 20 hours to 30 to maybe 40, depending on what the side content is, if there's any in-game content, if there's New Game Plus, if there's hard mode. But I think that this industry standard that has been set by certain games where every company feels the need to make a 50 to 60 hour game, I feel like that's actually hurting the industry. I feel like companies are trying too hard to make longer products because gamers are starting to expect that from every game, and I don't think every game needs to be that long. But the reason that these games are going to be more expensive in the next generation is because costs are going up. And for the last 20 or 25 years, games really haven't got that much more expensive. They're still fairly cheap. I mean, not cheap, but $60 is the standard price for most new games. And developers are not... For every copy they sell, they're probably making a certain amount off of that, because the store that's selling them has to make the money. And I think that the price needs to go up. And the reason I think that is because, you know, you have games that are costing hundreds of millions of dollars right now. And if that game only sells 2 million copies at $60 a piece, they're not seeing a lot of that profit back. So I know $10 to a game company may not seem like much, and to the consumer it may seem like a lot, but I also want to look at the other side of that, where I think that if a game is going to be $70, it needs to be a $70 game in quality. I'm not talking like, oh, you know, it needs to be a 10-hour experience for $70. I think that games need to be priced with the market. And right now, for 20 to 25 years, they really haven't been. The cost of games has, like, tripled at least since the original, you know, like since PS1, PS2. And that's obviously going to happen just because of the fact that technology advances, salaries go up, companies are spending more money on different things, and hiring specialists for certain graphical details, combat details, and obviously the competition when it comes to game developers themselves is getting higher, more quality is coming out, and these guys are expecting more pay, as they should. A lot of these guys work overtime, and the time spent making these games is not being made up just because of sales. And that's why I think you see a lot of like Nintendo games, first-party Nintendo games, don't really go down in price that much. Games that come out, 2 years down the road, Nintendo still has for $60. And I think that is because you have the PlayStation, which sold over 115 million consoles, which I believe that's 115 million. And, a lot of those consoles are really expensive for the company to make. They might make $50 on those consoles when they come out, and the real money that they make is off the games. And that's why I think a lot of first-party titles from Nintendo are still $60, because they have not sold more consoles than the PS4. I think they've beaten out the Xbox One as of right now, but the Switch is a lesser-selling console, and they need the money from those first-party titles and those games to make up the difference from the cost that it costs to make those consoles. So the fact that this is going up $10 really isn't that big of a deal, and I don't think that it's going to sway me on playing next generation games. I know it will a lot of people, and that's understandable, I get that, but I think that for a long time we've been expecting $60 games for AAA quality titles, and I just don't think that's a feasible market trend that can keep going into the next generation. As game consoles become more expensive, and games become more expensive to make, they're going to have to make up those costs somewhere, or we're going to start to see a decline in video game quality and features. And that also, I've seen some people say, well, if they're going to charge $70, maybe we shouldn't have microtransactions. And I am 100% against microtransactions. I think any content that should have been in the base game should be there. Now, I'm not talking about DLC, because I think DLC is important to games. It's stuff that, like, let's say a game comes out and people are really hyped for a sequel, but they don't really have time to make that sequel yet, or they're currently working on it, and they want to give fans something to play that's not necessarily full price of a game, but gives them something to play. Like The Witcher 3 had the Blood and Wine, and I cannot remember the second DLC for that one. But these were really full-size DLC that gave the player something to do while maybe they're waiting for the next CD Projekt Red game, which is Cyberpunk 2077, or maybe they're even waiting for the next Witcher game. And when companies do stuff like that, and we also know CD Projekt Red's their reputation with the fans, and when they do it that way, I have no problem with that. It's when you get into the paywall for content or pay-to-win model, or a lot of mobile games do this, where you get a certain amount of energy, and if you run out of energy, you have to pay $10 to get your energy back, and then you can play more. That model I typically don't care for, but I mean, you get what you get when you get a free-to-play mobile game. That being said, though, I don't know if I necessarily agree with Sean Layden about making like shorter games. It depends on what he means by shorter games. I see 15 to 20 hours as acceptable. Even 25 hours is acceptable. I don't see anything less than 10 or 10 for a full price game. I feel like 10 hours is way too short for a full price game. Especially if the game doesn't feature multiplayer. We know Miles Morales is coming out in the holiday season, probably going to be a launch title. I'm hoping that because they've already explained that the game is going to be 10 to 15 hours, maybe even 20, that the price of that game is actually lower than a full-size title coming out for Xbox Series X or PS5. Not really sure where that's going to fall in everything, but I do want to talk about what Sean Layden had to say, and he says, "It's been $59.99 since I started in this business, but the cost of games have gone up 10 times. If you don't have elasticity on the price point, but you have huge volatility on the cost line, the model becomes more difficult. I think this generation is going to see those two imperatives collide." And I think he's 100% right here. Like I explained earlier in the video, costs are going up, developers are earning more money, and it's just not feasible to see price points stay the same. But I do think that they are doing something right when it comes to this. So, even though these games are possibly going to be $10 more, a lot of companies right now are telling you that if you buy the PS4 or the Xbox One version of these games, you're going to get the upgrade to the PS5 or the Xbox Series X version for free. Like, I believe Cyberpunk 2077 is following that model. I want to say that Sucker Punch is doing that with Ghost of Tsushima, but don't quote me on that. I can't 100% say. But I know that game companies are already talking about free upgrades to the PS5 and Xbox Series X versions, and I think that's a great business model. If I buy a game, a month before the PS5 comes out, and then if I want to play the definitive edition of that game, I have to buy the PS5 version, they're going to suffer on sales for the PS5 version. If they give it to you for free for purchasing the PS4 game, that instills some kind of faith in that company to say, hey, I know you already spent $60 on this game. We want you to have the upgraded version for free. Here you go. And then you're going to build lifelong customers. And for me, that is a business model that I can definitely get behind. And I know a lot of consumers can get behind that as well. And I feel like that's a smart move by these companies. And even 2K21, the subject of this article, is saying that if you buy the Mamba Forever Edition, which is available across all platforms for $99.99, it will feature a host of extra digital content. In addition, anyone who purchases this version can get the standard version of the game on the other generation at no extra cost. So if you buy the PS4 Mamba Forever Edition of the game, you can get the standard edition of PS5 as part of the package. I think that's a big deal. I think that's really good. But companies are also building these games from the ground up for the next generation. So the Visual Concepts president, Greg Thomas, stated, "We're combining all of our experience and development expertise to craft the best game possible, and for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, we are building the game from the ground up to take full advantage of next-gen power and technology." That's awesome. I think that is a great thing that they're doing. Say what you will about sports games and stuff like that, but I can get behind this idea. But anyway, guys, I want to know what you guys think. Do you think that the $10 difference is a big deal? Do you think that it should stay $60? Or do you agree that the price points need to match more so what it costs to create these games? Let me know in the comments section below. Thank you guys for watching, and don't forget to omni-slash that like button. And like I said, let me know in the comments section below what you think of all of this. Subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell to join the ranks of Soldier today. And for all the latest video game news and industry insider news, I'm Soldier First Class, and I'm on to the next mission. Later, guys.